for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk.
You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how, and say it with me, folks, all Templars are bastards! I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
I really expected you to say it with me.
Yeah, I want to let you shine.
Anyway, Anders needs help finding evidence of a plot to make all mages in Kirkwall tranquil. The squad creeps through the underground passage that leads into the gallows, fighting spiders and lyrium smugglers along the way. At the end of the passage, our target, Sir Alric, is terrorizing a mage girl who only wanted to see her mom. Justice, or perhaps he is now Vengeance, takes control of Anders, feeding off of their shared anger. Sir Alric and his soldiers are killed, but that leaves a very frightened young woman who has never seen anything like Vengeance before. She justifiably calls him a demon and cowers. Vengeance doesn't like this. Once all is said and done, Anders has fled the passage, and we must go back to his clinic to check on him, and perhaps show him how far the Tranquil solution had actually gotten.
Yeah, this one's basically the heart of Anders' story. Like, we really get to the core of, like, what's going on with him.
I'm gonna tell you, this was deeply upsetting for me in many ways, and I had a really hard time, like, deciding what tone I would take for certain things.
Some things don't seem clear. This mission shows the limitations of the BioWare 2 or 3 choice system, which we've talked about before.
Yeah. Which, it's a video game. We can't have all of the nuance we would like, which is valid, and we know this. But as people, we require nuance in order to communicate.
That's true. Assuming that we're people.
Well, this is what we let them believe.
That's true. It's true.
Don't blow the cover.
All right.
All right. So we start off at Anders' clinic where we find out about this Tranquil solution. Anders is deeply upset, as he well should be, because there is this sadistic Templar who is making more mages tranquil every day than is necessary or required. It is being used as a silencing tactic rather than a way to prevent a mage from being taken by a demon, which is what it was originally introduced to do. So they say.
So they say, yeah. We have no real proof that was what it was designed for, but, that's
I have opinions.
I'm sure.
I have very deep opinions. Who did you take for this mission, by the way?
So this one I took Anders, of course, because we have to. And I took Aveline and Meryl because...
Interesting.
I wanted to spare Fenris from having to deal with mage stuff. And,
I brought him.
And Aveline, to me, like, while I don't always love how she handles things, has a strong sense of justice and wanting to do right, and has shown that even though she doesn't always get along with every mage, like, when it comes to the city of Kirkwall and Hawk, she tries to do right by Hawk. So I wanted to put her in that position, essentially, because it seemed like it would involve, and she has shown that she has not a lot of love for the Templars sometimes as well, since they don't treat the Guard as equal members of authority. So,
right. I think that is a good choice. I also brought Meryl. I brought Meryl, Anders, and Fenris. The reason I brought Fenris is because he has this opposing viewpoint, and he is a very strong fighter. I thought that it was a good team because I also like the bickering that happens between Anders and Fenris. Yeah. And to make matters even more personal than they already are, Sir Ulrich is the Templar that did the ritual on Carl, the character that Anders wanted us to help when we first recruited him.
Yeah, it's it continues to prove that like the Templars are basically exactly who we thought they were.
Yes. Though Anders does kind of not support, but says that Meredith at least believes that she is doing the right thing. Like, whatever her decisions, they are coming from a place of, I am trying to protect people. Whereas Sir Ulrich is simply trying to hurt people because it makes him feel good.
Yeah, I mean, Sir Ulrich is basically the kind of Templar that we talk about at the end of every episode.
Also, I feel that this is important to say. It is Sir Ulrich, spelled Alrik, because the K is for evil.
Wait, the K is for evil?
Yes. And it is not Ulrich, as in Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein.
Oh, true, yes. Okay,
of he's blonde, he's pissed, he'll see you in the list.
Yeah, okay, good point. I was like, where are you going with this?
I feel like this is very important to highlight. So do not fear, fans of Heath Ledger classic A Knight's Tale. The name has not been besmirched.
Yeah, that would upset probably our entire audience if they're anything like us. So good call.
So I just needed to let you know. As we're talking about this, I don't know how familiar you are with like the technical definition of genocide.
I mean, I'm pretty familiar with it. If you want to lay it out for the listeners, that makes sense.
Can't lay it out as well as my spouse can.
Well, yes.
I'm going to do a quick plug of the History Wizard on Instagram, TikTok, and where else have you on the internet. If you have any questions about genocide, any genuine questions, John, my spouse, is very happy to answer them. There are countless videos on their profile that address this topic again and again. But the reason why I bring it up is this tool of effectively lobotomizing your dissenters is a form of genocide because it is silencing the people that you are repressing and basically taking them out of the pool, so to speak.
Right.
So one of the forms of genocide, aside from educating the indigenous culture out of their culture and indoctrinating them into your culture, is this lobotomizing tactic. So it's really difficult to address these horrible things that are being done to mages as a queer person, as a trans person. And I'm sure you also feel this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to come back. Funny is the wrong word. It's interesting to come back to things like this and look at it through a different lens, as both you and I have evolved in who we are over the years as well. And again, I only played this game once before, so except for playing sections of it. So like, I don't really remember how dire it gets. I remember it does, and I remember the big scene with Anders later. We'll get to that. But like those tentpole moments, but the smaller moments, like the companion quests here, are things that I'd forgotten or aren't as familiar with. And so they hit a little harder this time around.
Yeah, I remembered that we had to do the overall sneak into the gallows for Anders. Right. I didn't remember the tranquil solution. And refamiliarizing myself with it makes me deeply upset because it's a horrifying thing to happen to any community, but it's also a thing that's happening to our community right now.
Yes.
And it's also happening to countless other communities in our home country. And man, if you have a hard time listening to this episode, we wouldn't blame you if you skipped it and came back in 2 weeks, because this is going to be a tough one for both of us.
Yeah. And if you're coming to this podcast and don't want us to talk about things going on in the real world as they relate to this video game, then you are unfortunately listening to the wrong podcast, because
Yeah,
that's basically what we do.
Yeah, that's kind of in our job description.
Basically, yeah. That and being annoying.
Let's talk about the passageway. Anders leads us to this passageway that is used by the mage resistance to smuggle mages out of the gallows into the country and get them free of the circle. We are being trusted with the massive secret. For your Hawk, it makes sense that you're being trusted with this because you are a mage. And it's something that you should know about.
Yeah, this mission does feel like it doesn't treat my Hawk as a mage often. It feels like it treats my Hawk as Hawk, like kind of non-gendered, so to speak, in the fact that like it just kind of treats Hawk as Hawk. But there are some moments that you get to bring up your mageness, but this isn't really one of them. But yeah, but it does make sense from a narrative perspective that Hawk would know about this already, or have known about it, or been told about it, or is being told about it because he may need it sometime.
For my Hawk, who is a rogue, Anders is very careful to say, we have kept this from you because of your interaction with the nobility, and you do like talk to Templars every now and then, just because of who you are and the way that you move about this city, which makes sense. Like, if something happens to me, I can't reveal a secret, right? I can't reveal a secret that I don't know.
Correct, yeah. And like, I don't always agree with that mentality, but I do understand why Anders has it.
Right. So I think there are times where it is important. Like, there are some secrets that need to be kept, and this came up in Eternal Strands when we were playing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you tell the people?
Well, and also, you can't give, like, if you want something to truly stay a secret, you tell no one, because the minute someone knows, they could say it, and then it's not a secret anymore.
Exactly. So we are introduced to this. It's a huge leap of faith and trust from Anders and from the mage community, because for my Hawk, I'm not a mage. I don't know the plight the way they know it. I have seen it through my sibling and my parent, but I have not personally experienced it as far as this narrative is concerned. For your Hawk, I feel like it is a gift in a way, because this is a welcoming into a brotherhood that you are already a part of.
Yeah, and it just equips my Hawk with more information to protect myself.
The passageway in itself. We fight some lyrium smugglers. We fight some spiders. And then we fight some more lyrium smugglers, and then that is it.
And the passageway looks like every underground dungeon we've played so far.
Now, it is very possible that I have been heavily influenced by blueprints lately. But I really felt like a combat forward progression was not the way to go here. You know, Dragon Age Origins did make use of puzzles and making you think about things and reading your codex to figure out how to progress something. And I feel like Dragon Age 2 doesn't do that as much. And I would have liked it if they had, for this section, like, this is a secret passage that is used to smuggle people out. There should be some tricks to it. There should be, like, some magic barriers that are set up that only some mages can figure out if they have the right tools. So you have to have Anders in your party, obviously, so that way you can get through them.
Also, it's a secret. It's pretty crowded for a secret place. Like,
yes.
It
like,
just
there's
doesn't
a lot
make
of people here for a secret passage.
Like, the spiders make sense on a level just because they are natural
live there.
creatures. Right, yeah. But, like, the smugglers, also, like, I don't know, I also have been playing a game lately called Clair Obscure Expedition 33, which is an RPG, and it's open area. It's not really an open world, but, like, we've talked about this before on the show as both JRPG fans. If there's a waterfall, there needs to be a chest. That's just an expectation setting. And as much as I say it as a joke, in Clair Obscura 33, if there is an off the beat, it's pretty straightforward. It's mostly hallway like, but if there's an off the beaten path, a different platform, a different area, every time I would look there, there'd be an item. There'd be something.
Get a reward.
I'd get rewarded for exploration. Dragon Age 2 doesn't do this. It's almost player antagonistic towards it, like in the fact that because the dungeons were created the way they were, when you go off to the left and there's a small room, there could be absolutely nothing there and there was no point to go there often. And so for the most part now, I'm so frustrated, I don't explore anymore. I just don't care.
That means that you missed out on that one chest that had a very not important, but had an armor upgrade for one of our companions.
Yes. And like it's just frustrating to me because like sometimes when you explore off the beaten path in this game, you find something. Yeah. But I'd say 80% of the time
you do not.
You get nothing. Maybe an herb or like a mushroom or something, but like but like it's so frustrating. And playing an excellent game like I've been playing that rewards that kind of exploration mentality, which is what you're supposed to do in good game design, is if you either have no off the beaten path areas, or if you have them, give the player something for going. It's a basic Mario mechanic since Mario went 3D, right? Any area that you maybe can't go to in Mario 64, but you find a way into, at least has coins or 1-up or something, right? Because you want to reward the player for doing that, so they'll do it more and find the secrets. But here, we are rarely rewarded for finding secrets. The secrets we find are basically happenstance half the time in a dungeon.
I like that you brought up a game such as Mario 64 because it does predate this game.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to say, like, yes, this is an older game, but this technique that we're talking about has been used prior to this game. It was used in the previous game of this same series.
Correct.
Like, do you remember when we had to go into the ruins and we had to fight all those skeletons to try and find the werewolves?
Yeah.
There was this entire section of the ruins that had several puzzles.
Yes.
And you got rewarded for solving the puzzles. And maybe it was a good thing, maybe it was a bad thing. Maybe you had to fight a demon. But something still happened.
Yes, correct.
And I wish Dragon Age 2 had the time, had like whatever it was that they needed in order to make complexity happen. Because unfortunately, the thing that brings this game down is a lack of complexity.
Yeah, for sure. And like we know the development history, but I think critique is still important regardless of the development history. And yeah, I mean, the things that I'm talking about while I'm mentioning a modern game because it's at the forefront of my mind, this is stuff that RPGs have been doing since Chrono Trigger, one of my favorites. Like Chrono Trigger does it with time travel shenanigans, where depending on when you open a certain thing, whether it's the past or the future, you may get 1 or 2 items. Like it's just this kind of game design. I call it basic not because I think that the devs were bad at their jobs, but more just because it's a fundamental thing that when you have the time to nourish development of a game, you'd want to include. But their concern probably with this game was get it done, make it playable, not make it more interesting.
Right. I often say that perfect is the enemy of done, because when you're an artist, if you get hung up on perfectionism, you will never complete your art. And that is probably something that the devs had to go through in this because they had to complete it. They had a deadline. Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. And if you want it to happen, if you want it to get there, then it can't be perfect.
Yeah. So basically,
it is an unfortunate thing. But yes, that is how I feel about this section. I felt like combat wasn't really it wasn't interesting. There was nothing that we got out of it story-wise except for lyrium smugglers built these caves so that way they can bring lyrium to the Templars who are addicted to it. Like, yeah, okay. We already know that Templars are addicted to lyrium. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's this game's answer, unfortunately, to a lot of stuff is combat, conversation. Like, it's just kind of the game loop for this game. So eventually, I mean, we'll probably still point it out, but we can only harp on it for so long because it's basically how this game was designed.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up because I saw how it could have been different.
Right.
Like, I just saw so clearly that this could have been more puzzle focused, and we would have had to solve things with the help of Anders in order to make it through. And sure, There could still be combat. Like, we could still be fighting We could still be fighting spiders. We could be fighting magical constructs that exist to defend the passage from interlopers. Like,
Right.
a consequence for fucking up a puzzle, perhaps, could be having to fight these magical constructs. And it doesn't have to be demons. There could be other ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a function. This mission is a function of a greater problem, but it's more noticeable here.
So I just wanted to talk about it. Okay. And after 3 boring fights, we do finally find Sir Ulrich confronting, terrorizing a young mage woman who he specifically calls a girl. And she is begging for her life. She's terrified of him. And this entire scene, content warning, sounds extremely rapey.
Yeah, it does have that. It just feels lecherous in a way that a lot of these other confrontations haven't.
Like, you know what happens to mage girls who lie to me. Like, why is it only mage girls? And also, why girls?
I mean,
Like,
I think that was done with some semblance of intent, probably, to show how bad the Templars are.
Absolutely. Like, this was done intentionally to, 1, make us hate Ulrich, and 2, make us wonder about the power imbalance that is happening here. Because when people are in a position of power over others, it can either bring out the best of them and show their compassion and their leadership and how they protect people, or it will bring out the worst, because this is their opportunity to get anything they want from anyone they can scare and anyone they can control. And this is Ulrich at his worst.
Yep, absolutely 100%.
This poor young woman, she just wants to go see her mom because she was taken without any explanation. Also, I would be very interested in knowing if this woman is in fact an adult or if she is a teenager, because usually mages are taken when they're very young.
Yeah, and we're not really given any sense, and you can't tell just by looking at her.
Yeah, the game is not very good at differentiating ages, and I don't think we ever see young, like, children, like young girls.
It's either little child, like young child, or adult. Look, we can't really tell the difference.
Yeah, and then even when we see a child, I think they're all boys. I don't think we ever see little girls.
I don't think so, but I can't remember.
Like, I cannot
remember. The story related children that we've encountered who have had have had issues have all been boys. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very difficult for us to tell if this is a 16-year-old or a 25-year-old.
Right.
And just, I don't know, by calling her a girl, it could be trying to make her feel smaller, or it could be like she is literally a girl.
Yeah, it's unclear. I mean, either way, Ulrich, even if she was a grown woman, would probably still view her as a little girl. It sounds like Ulrich is depicted as older and for sure more powerful either way. So
yeah. And when the girl says, "Please, I'll do anything you want," Ulrich says something even grosser, saying, "This is true. When you're tranquil, you'll do anything I ask," which makes me feel like he is using this tranquil solution as a way to build a harem of it's Jacob's dad all over again. Barf.
It's gross. Yeah, it's awful. But we don't have to listen to this much longer because Anders, of course, loses complete control, and the spirit formerly known as Justice, which is now basically Vengeance, takes over Anders and absolutely loses it. And this leads to a fight with Ulrich and his guard.
Yeah. And, like, I'm also pissed. Like, Frankie, also pissed as hell. So when the fight is over, Vengeance says, "They will die. I will have every last Templar for these abuses." And after what I heard from Ulrich, I am feeling the same way. I was so torn between trying to calm down this person that I care about, who is clearly, like, losing control, and my own sense of control.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct was to want to agree with the statement, but I think also, and a lot of the mage side of the logic applies to this, knowing there's more going on here than just Anders being Anders. My concern at the forefront was protecting the mage girl and calming Anders down, because it's clear that he can't control himself. And so while I agree that it's a hard decision to make between what to say in this moment, ultimately the way I'd been playing my character and the way I would be in the situation, the concern for my friend and the safety of all overtook what in this moment I knew was right, was that they all must be stopped.
I wish I could say I did that, because I was just so furious that I agreed. I said, I promise we will kill them.
Yeah.
Because I was so furious. But when the woman is scared, she calls Anders / Vengeance a demon, which makes Vengeance furious, because as we know, spirits abhor demons. Spirits are beings that embody certain virtues. They are beings of knowledge and history, and they can be companions for mages. So Vengeance, who is being kind of warped by anger, would then take that as such an insult that he loses sight of what it is he's trying to do.
Yeah, and he almost or can kill this girl. Were you able to stop him from doing so?
Yes, I said,
was too.
Anders, remember what you're fighting for. This is the woman that we just saved.
Yeah, I did the same. And I'm remembering now, because these two conversations were separate, I also did say that we will kill them all, because I was thinking of this moment where you pull him back. But yes, in that first moment when just talking to him, I agreed. And every time it's come up, I've agreed, because I am where Anders is, though to not the same extreme.
Yeah. After we calm Anders down and he comes back to himself, he is horrified that he almost hurt this woman, and he just dips, which valid. I respect the need for space.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's always funny in an RPG when you have a set amount of party members and he just dips. And so on our way out of the dungeon, which isn't far, and there's no other combat, we're just down a party member. Because in real life, you couldn't just magically make another friend appear if a friend leaves. You are stuck with who you've got until others can get there. So
yeah,
it made sense. It was just kind of funny.
Yeah. We speak to the young woman who thanks us for saving her life. And she asks us what that was, referring to Anders / Vengeance. What did you choose to say?
I'm trying to remember what I said in that moment. Oh, I told her to go somewhere safe.
Okay. I told her that too, but before that, when she asked about Anders' vengeance, you can say, like, it was just a trick! Or, I forget what the third option was, but the, like, diplomatic option was saying he's my friend, which Hawk then explains he's a deeply troubled man. But he is caring, and he is my friend, and, you know, he's not a demon. He is a person who has been through a lot.
Yeah, I chose that one as well, to kind of try and explain who he is to the best of our ability.
I got +10 Fenris rivalry for this entire excursion.
I mean, that's unsurprising. Yeah, I just got Anders' companionship. What's the other one? The opposite of rivalry.
Friendship. It's just friendship.
Right. Friendship. I just got friendship from Anders. I expected rivalry from Aveline, and I didn't get any. So.
Well, I think that because you were protecting a person,
that's a bridge for Aveline to meet you at. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think she would feel very neutral about the whole ordeal.
Right.
Going back to Anders' clinic to talk to him about what happened, he's going through his things, which feels very like, I am paring things down, so if I ever need to run, I can just go.
Yeah.
And that kind of scares me a little bit, because I care about this person.
Yeah,
like,
same.
We're in this fight together, and, like, I don't want him to run. I want to help.
Yeah, and so we kind of try and talk him out of his tree a little bit to, like, bring him back and, like, reassure him.
So the conversation for me was just about the papers from Sir Ulrich's pocket, showing that only Sir Ulrich believed in this. The Divine and Meredith rejected it,
Yeah.
which kind of like instantly calms Anders down because he sees this pathway of hope and starts saying like, oh, maybe I should talk to the Grand Cleric. Maybe there is a way for us to do this peacefully. Because multiple times Anders says it should just be open war. That way mages can stand a chance.
Yeah, and this having this extra knowledge brings Anders back from what he thought was the brink, because he thought there was, like, he seeing this play out convinced him that there was no other solution, that there was only one way and war was it, and he's willing to go to war. He doesn't want to. He still sees a brighter path, as disillusioned as he is. But vengeance, I think, takes him down that darker path, because when you've been beaten down for so long, so it's hard for some people to see that there is a silver lining or that there is hope when things are at their worst. And this moment was like the peak of the worst for Anders, because he's known of this behavior, but he's not seen it firsthand. And it's easy to assume all Templars are like this if you see it with one of the high-ranking Templars.
Yes, exactly. Did you talk to him again after that?
I did.
I did too.
Yeah,
How did it go?
So you talk to Anders again, he broaches the conversations you've been having, and basically it gives you this opportunity to either confirm that you care about Anders and want to be with him, or turn him down. And I hated this moment. So I was conflicted about how I felt about Anders. I had flirted with him, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue romance with him. But in this moment, it didn't feel right. I think
that's fair.
Also,
you've just been through a thing.
Yeah, and I don't know that I want to smooch vengeance on the lips. Some people are into that. So yeah, and so with all of that, I was like, I think maybe I'm not ready for this. But when you turn him down, it's harsher than I want it to be, because you can either emphatically say yes, or he, because he asks you what's going on here, or you can say, I never felt that way about you. I'm sorry that you got that message, but that's not what's going on here. And it was a harsher tone than I would have taken, because then Anders immediately goes, oh, I'm so sorry. No, I totally understand. And he kind of withdraws. And I don't want that. I want to be friends.
Right.
Like, and so, yeah, it's just, it was frustrating to me as someone who didn't want to completely shut him out as like a friend, but you're just harsher. And I get making a point also, right? You do have to be firm in some sense when having those kinds of conversations, so people don't like think, oh, well, maybe there's still a chance, right? You want to like nip that in the bud if it's not what you want. But I just didn't like the way my hawk handled it, but it was the choice I made.
That's fair. My options were like upfront, kiss me, I like teasing you, or no.
Yeah.
So I went with, like, kiss me, coward, you won't. Like, kiss me about it then. Because I do really like Anders, and this is not just my previous bias shining through. There is something really passionate and comforting about being with the person who shares your beliefs, who shares your convictions. And even though my hawk is not a mage, I relate very deeply to the mages because I see them as an allegory for the queer community. And you can make an argument that the mage community is an allegory for any repressed community, any systematically oppressed group, like, can be a stand-in for the mages.
Yes.
And just me as a queer person, I relate to them very deeply. So I see myself a lot in what Anders is feeling. And, maybe this is just self-love for me. Maybe this is just my way of coming to terms with loving myself.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
or I'm a narcissist. I don't know.
I mean, it could be both. It could always be both.
I hope I'm not a narcissist.
Look, longtime listeners will know you also went down the Garrus path, unsurprisingly. So, like,
I love him.
I know. We know. But No one was surprised. I am wondering where I'll land at this point because I do have a few things percolating, but like this moment just didn't feel right to me. But I also in this moment went, well, I know what Frankie's doing.
Yeah.
Because beyond your pre-biases, I know the kind of person you've grown to be versus who you were when we first met.
Yeah.
And so like you've become predictable on some level for different reasons.
Look, you may be able to make him better, but I can make him worse, and therefore more interesting.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
How do you think John got to be where they are?
That's true. Yeah, you made them gayer.
I got John to trans their gender. That's not entirely true. That is a joke, but John
Personal
is
journeys and all that.
Yes, John is a gender anarchist. But that is John's own journey.
I mean, John was an anarchist and now gender is involved, so it's the natural
Yes.
evolution.
Yes. We just joke that I got John to trans their gender because that is a thing that Casey and I used to shout at John and Craig all the time.
Yeah.
Just trans your gender already.
Do it, coward. You won't.
Yeah. So that is Anders' companion quest and questioning beliefs. So Anders and I make out. Oh wait, there was a quote and I closed my notes. He's just a really intense person and I'm into that. Like, I'm tired of people who have no convictions. I'm tired of people who have no passions. And if I'm going to be with someone, it is going to be someone who like is all in on their beliefs.
Absolutely. I think as an adult, it's harder to be with someone who goes, oh, I exist in this lane. And that other lane that's going on that bothers me,
Yeah.
I'm just letting it exist. I'm not going to get involved.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've noticed it. I've noticed it the most with coworkers at my day job. Won't name names or places, but like I work with someone who is very much a Republican, who's very much kind to me and my coworkers, who is very much respectful of my pronouns and a good person to me. But then when politics come out, they still talk about the things they want from politics that even if their beliefs, like their belief or focus doesn't oppress people like me, the results will, and they don't see it. And those kinds of people piss me off more because honestly, if he were just a textbook supervillain, that's clearer of a conviction to me that I can push back against. But someone who's wibbling in the middle here and tells me that their partner is liberal and they're not, like, I don't understand how you exist in those lanes together.
Yeah, I think.
But I'm also not going to question it's not my business, but like it's one of those things that I went, so you're Republican, your partner's a Democrat, they're opposing beliefs, you're a man and she's a woman, and yet you just don't talk about this stuff. I just feel like that's just a recipe for disaster. But again, people live their own lives, but that kind of thing to me frustrates me more than people who clearly have strongly held beliefs who are fighting for what they believe in.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it reminds me of women whose partners are like vehemently Republican and anti-queer and transphobic, etc. And just saying to them like, hey, you're also not an ally if that's who you date. Like, you choose that person.
Right. Absolutely. Correct. They're part of the problem. I agree.
So it's really hard when somebody's like, they're clearly kind to you. They clearly know like what's okay and what's not.
Yeah.
But their greater beliefs still diminish you.
Yeah. It's proof that people can compartmentalize even if they don't think they can. And I'm not forgiving a person like that, but it's also a person like that that complicates interactions on the whole.
My sewing mentor is an ally. But she's also like over 70. So she has a hard time remembering my pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
And I largely forgive her for that because, she's not targeting me in any way.
Right.
It's
Right.
Like, there's no vehemence in it.
Right.
And there's this trans ally march happening here in a couple of weeks. And I had seen the flyer in her shop, and she mentioned to me, like, yeah, the person who's running it, I think, expected me to say no, that she wasn't allowed to put it here. And I was like, but you're trans friendly. You're friendly to me. And she laughed and was like, also, my daughter is gay. And it was just a very funny and nice moment. And it's like, just because you seem like a certain type of person doesn't mean that they necessarily are.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, she taunted me by showing me pictures of her very cute gay daughter and waiting like 20 minutes to say, oh, and then here's her partner. Like, how dare you?
Tease.
This is such a tease.
Before we talk about what we're doing next, shall we get into some fan mail? We actually got a variety of things this time. It's very exciting.
Yes. Oh my God, there's so many things.
I think we can do highlights, but
I just read the last one.
Yeah, that's why I included it. We'll get to that. But do you want to take Dice Roll RPG KT's response first, and then we'll go from there?
Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to skim. So Dice Roll RPG KT, thank you so much for your very lengthy and detailed response. We always appreciate it. Sharing for the first time after catching up on the podcast, DA2 is my favorite of all the games, but mostly because we get so much Varric, aka the love of my life. I actually like that in DA2 you don't have as much narration as in Veilguard. Even though Varric is telling the story in DA2 to Cassandra, you are also playing it as Hawk. If there were more narration, I don't think it would feel as connected to the story and to the character. It would feel less like I was living the story and more like a guided tour of events I had no control over. Even though there are inevitable events, I still felt as though my decisions had meaning and affected me/my Hawk in a very personal way. And then for 620, I went down a wormhole about Klemek and wanted to share. Or Kamek? I don't remember how it's pronounced, but I'm just going to read the headlines instead of the bullet points. Kamek is possibly made with lyrium or is another form of lyrium. Sar Kamek/Kamek likely has multiple formulas, and not all of them are deadly to non-Qunari races, as we're initially told. Not only is there a good chance that the Qunari are using lyrium for these poisons, but we have proof that there are multiple formulas for both of them. I think the Arashok allowed the formula to be stolen and didn't inform Hawk intentionally until the last minute so that they could see what would happen if it were released. Maybe this is a test of the new formula? This would mean he told Hawk as more of a courtesy, quote, heads up, this is going to happen, versus, quote, hey, this is going to happen and you can fix it. It's also possible that the Arashok had begun to see the entire city as not worth saving. It may have also reduced the number of mages in the city, as the Qunari were likely informed about all the apostates and blood mages. So that was from Dice Roll RPG KT, and Matt, will you take Callie?
Yes, and also for brevity, KT, you're KT from now on. We will read your entire username at the start, but having -KT makes it easier, so we're going to take it. But thank you for writing in. Please keep writing in. We read everything. We just have limited time to write to read everything on the air, but we appreciate it and we will always share. So thank you for submitting. But yes, Callie also has written in, and Callie says, surprised and almost irritated how many thoughts appeared this time. Of all the companions, Sebastian's quest, really? Might impose a word limit on myself from now on. Please don't. Kelly, you can write as much as you want. We're happy to read it. We just may not read all of it on the air. But in regards to repentance, death is never justice. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts on this. Seemed intimidating to do that. Going to be pedantic about the concept of justice, but wanted to be clear about approaching from a position of understanding and in practice agreement. Can reluctantly admit that death is on rare occasion unavoidable, but would say in those cases all possible just or less unjust outcomes have failed at every step along the way, which totally makes sense and is a valid point. At that point,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. At that point, would consider the solution entirely devoid of justice, filled with only tragedy. I think of justice as being about solving problems of harm, and do not consider the ending a problem the same as solving it. Which, yes, I mean, again,
that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a solution. It's just a finality. It's a way it ended, and it's not necessarily the best fix. Often it's the worst. It is possible to have an unhealthy fixation with pondering the philosophy of justice, punishment, and atonement, or maybe it is necessary to keep me from being consumed by guilt and hatred. I mean, also lots of cultures and religions also focus on all of those things and have a lot of practices around them because it is something worth pondering. So this is me adding to Callie's thought. Anyway, death is never justice might be the only thing I agree with Chantry cleric about, but we get to the idea in very different ways, and just the maker handle everything is far from making sense to me, which is legit.
Yeah. Let's skip down to epilogue.
Yes. And so, Callie, thank you for also writing about your thoughts on repentance and specifically Sebastian. We have read them and enjoy them.
If you would like to read more of Callie's thoughts, you can join our Discord. We'll tell you how to do that a little bit later.
Yes, true. But the epilogue of their thoughts is there something you need to tell us? Oh, that would be no fun. But if there was anything about dubious humanness to tell, that would be probably not the first clue nor the last. I see. So we're going to keep playing along with this game. Well, that's fine because I like to play this game. Alas, thanks for a 9-hour time difference. GIFCON is almost perfectly scheduled for entirely when I need to be sleeping. Hard to resist staying up late for Frankie's panel, but my insomnia would try to kill me for a week. Thankfully, I think everything was recorded, right? Isn't there like a video version or something?
Everything will be recorded for this year's
Got it.
GIFCON. It was also recorded for last year's GIFCON, but the recording that I mentioned is from a different conference that I gave the same talk
Oh, great.
at.
Cool. Awesome.
So I will post that talk. So if you are interested in GIFCON, but there is a huge time difference preventing you from taking part, they do record everything. So if you like watching academic talks, if that's your wheelhouse, then go ahead and sign up. So that way you can have access to the YouTube links. And finally, our last and most important comment is from Kaz. Sebastian, our vanilla prince.
Yes. Very, very well said, Kaz. Thank you.
Oh my god. So much fan mail this time. We love you guys. You guys are fantastic. You make us think new things, and I think we make you think new things, and it is this wonderful feedback loop of constantly making each other think.
Yes.
And that is why I love doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for writing in. We will always read what you send, and we will always bring up some of it, at least, on the show itself. So thank you. Keep sending it in. I will say the more brief it is, the more likely we are to read all of it, just because, reading is hard.
Look, hey, if people want to read the entire thing, they can join our Discord. Right,
that's true. Or you can send us a voice message.
Oh my god, if you sent us a voice message, we would add it to the episode.
Absolutely.
Would we not?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think Discord supports short form audio. So yes, if you ever submit a voice message response, we will include it in the show, because then I don't have to do any work while we're recording. I just have to do some work in the editing.
Hey, you just have to drag and drop and it's fine.
Basically.
Okay. Let's get into Fandom Corner.
Let's do it.
So my Fandom Corner for you guys this week is not anything specific, but it is a general concept of making art. And specifically, I would like to suggest making your own zine. I am not a zine expert, but I really enjoy the freedom of creation that it provides. Zines have been around since the 1800s, and every time there is a fandom that inspires a generation, a political upheaval that requires dissemination of information, or an uptick in a focus on the arts, zines return with a vengeance. They're easy to make, and they can contain anything at all that you want. The point of them is that they're also easy to reproduce, so they can be left places or handed out at little to no cost, and that literally anyone can do it. I encourage everyone to take a couple of hours and some art supplies and make their own zine. Here are some prompts to get you started. 1. The best butts in Dragon Age. 2. Varric. Overrated or legendary? 3. Mages versus Templars. A debate. And 4. Explain Cullen's popularity to me like I'm 5. If you make any of these zines, please post them in our Discord. My last zine was doodling song lyrics, and I'm actually really proud of how it came out. I'll post pictures of it if anybody cares. And it's just it doesn't have to be serious. It can be serious if you want it to be. One of my friends sat down at the zine workshop and wrote an entire soap opera set in world of a novel that she's writing. So, like, it's not the novel that she's writing. It is a story that is important to people in the world of the novel that she's writing. So it's layered and meta and really cool. And two of my friends who are dating and also very argumentative did dueling zines about Umbreon. One of them loves Umbreon and the other one thinks Umbreon is overrated. So that was really funny and cute. I think that zines are really cathartic and give you an opportunity to express something that you don't get to express in words all the time. So that is my fandom corner for you.
And if you want to support other zines, there are tons of, at least I know, gaming zines that exist on Patreon and on Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That if you want to back any of those, you can find some really cool ones doing the work that, you know, major publications were doing before all the rich people fired those people. So, you know, there's that too.
There are also zines sold on Etsy. There are zine libraries online. If you live in Northern Ireland, which if you do, can we be friends? I don't have a lot of friends here. If you live in Northern Ireland, there is a queer bookstore called Paperclips. They host their own little free zine library. There are other zine libraries all across the world. So check it out if you're curious.
My fandom corner is more direct and not a broad concept like Frankie's is, but that's okay. One of us has to be basic, and it might as well be me. I saw a really great movie, and I just want more people to see this really great movie. What?
Everyone is seeing it except me.
Well, go see it.
I'm trying.
I am, of course, talking about the movie Sinners. It is something that I saw a trailer for and was interested in, but mostly my interest was born of Ryan Coogler, who I've loved the Black Panther films and the Creed films, and you know, was interested in his work. But this was like a wholly original, non-franchise related item. He's done other movies that weren't also, but this is now after the popularity that has come, and it's starring Haley Steinfeld and Michael B. Jordan and Miles Carlton, and it's got an incredible cast.
I'll watch anything with Michael B. Jordan in it. He's so talented.
He really is. And in this film, Michael B. Jordan plays twins who are involved in the Chicago mob scene, come back to their hometown to open a juke joint, and it is really a film about music and vampires, and it's incredibly well done. It is not a musical, but it has music throughout, and like specifically blues and Irish music play a huge focal point in this, which is why I want Frankie to see it. But besides,
I know, I want to see it so bad.
But it's incredibly done. Miles Carlton, who plays Sammy Moore, one of the main characters, plays all of his own music in the film, is an incredible talent. There's so much great music in it. Like, I was excited to see it because it was a vampire film, and I like vampire flicks.
I didn't know that it was vampires.
And it is one of those things that now, having seen it, it's not only my favorite vampire film, but it's one of my favorite films. It's just musically, it's really impressive, and everyone knows I'm a music nerd, so I can't praise this.
You are?
You know what? You're fired.
I've never heard you talk about music before.
You're fired. Get out. No, don't go. I can't do this alone. Yeah, if you've been sitting on the fence about seeing Sinners, please go see it. It's incredible. It's also, as someone who is a horror weenie, it's not that scary. There are a few jump scares, but for the most, there are a few jump scares, and it's creepy at moments, but it is never, just overly scary.
You don't have to look at it through your fingers.
Basically. Also, I'll say this too. It's one of the first vampire films I've ever seen where it takes the act of sex and sexuality in it and doesn't just make it about assault, which often a lot of vampire narratives are about assault or control or manipulation. This has some of that as well because it's a vampire story, but the way it utilizes those things felt less creepy and predatory than I've seen in other films. And so it's more emotionally predatory than sexually predatory, which I think is interesting. Manipulating other characters' emotions based on how this takes hold. Anyway, I don't want to give it all away, but it's really great. Please go see it. Sinners was awesome.
I'm trying so hard to get to go see it. I have messaged no less than 4 people to be like, will you go see this movie with me? And either they have seen it already or they just have absolutely no interest. And I'm frustrated. Matt, come to Northern Ireland and see this movie with me.
I would if you could pay for the tickets, but you can't.
I wish I could.
Anyway.
I'll pay for your movie ticket.
Yeah, thanks. Helpful. You could go see it by yourself. Seeing movies by yourself is rad.
No, I need someone to drive me.
Okay. All right.
The movie theater is so far.
Okay.
Like, it's a 5-minute drive, but it's at least an hour walk.
Ugh, the worst.
Yeah, because there's no, like, good pedestrian infrastructure leading to it.
Yeah.
So, like, to get to it, I have to, like, wind through several parks. It's a whole thing.
So anyway, that's my fandom corner. Our next episode will be about Meryl. We're going to do Meryl's companion quest and questioning beliefs. It should be a good time, ? I don't remember the mission, so who knows? Yeah.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, totally.
It's only Act 2.
Yeah, right. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, hello, Miss Cleo.
Anyway, so if you want to be prepared for the next episode, just make sure you play Meryl's companion quest for Act 2.
All right. So if you like what you heard here, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're at Reignite Pod on Blue Sky, YouTube, Instagram, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find Matt and I on Blue Sky as DJ Stormageddon and Frankie B. Wrights, respectively.
If you enjoy what you're listening to, please also consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing on your podcatcher of choice. It helps us get seen so other people can find this podcast and fight against the tyranny of the almighty algorithm, which needs to be defeated. I don't know. I feel like adding adventure to it might get more folks to do it. Seriously, rate and review and subscribe. Share a podcast with a friend. If you have a friend who loves storytelling and smooching characters in games, please tell them about this show. Word of mouth helps better than literally any other way. So I know all y'all have friends, so go tell your friends how great the show is so they'll listen too.
As an aside, I was chatting with a friend in this cafe near my house, and one of my other friends who owns the cafe overheard me mention the podcast because I said, oh yeah, I have to record on Sunday. And she was like, record what? What do you record? What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, I have a podcast. And she was like, why didn't I know this? I was like, I assumed that you didn't care because I know you and I'm 99% certain you have never played a video game in your life. And she was like, well, I care about the things you do. I was like, I'm 99% sure that when I leave someone's sight, they forget I exist.
Not true.
Pretty certain.
Not true.
That I just stop existing in people's minds the second they can't see me. So I told my friend about the podcast, even though she doesn't play video games. Yeah. I'm not a straight white guy. I'm not always talking about my podcast.
I'm not a straight white guy either, but I am. So, take that for what you will.
I mean, you can't help what you were socialized as for so long.
That's true. I'm fighting against the urge. Anyway, shall we continue?
Yes. We're members of the Certain Point of View Network. Remember when I was talking about that Discord? If you visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view, you can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on that website, so you can join the conversation and read what everybody else has had to say about Reignite.
Yeah, we have a really active community. We love our listeners. If you want to be a part of that awesome active community and communities of other podcasts and just talking about video games generally and books and TV and movies and comic books, we have a huge comic book conversation going at all times thanks to Case Aiken, Alex Lavelle, and a bunch of other really awesome folks. Please come to our Discord and hang out. As far as personal plugs go, as for me, if you're hearing this the day it came out and you are in Boston, I am at PAX East with Jeff Moonen covering the event for Fun and Games, also with the incredible Sarah Moonen, our associate producer. Please come through and hang out. We are not doing any panels this year, but we'll be interviewing devs, walking the show floor, checking stuff out. So please come through. If you want to check out all the stuff I'm doing, you can, of course, go to djstormageddon.com. All of my podcasts, merch, everything else is there. Go check it out. And yeah, that's my plugs for this week.
I think I need some Frankie-focused merch.
Sure, you could do that.
Yeah, think about it. Anyway, I'm presenting at GIFCon again this year. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the episode. GIFCon is the Glasgow International Fantasy Conversation, where we talk about fantasy through a specific theme. This year it is about LGBT representation and narratives within the fantasy genre, which is exactly my wheelhouse. So I'm going to be giving a talk about how monster fucking is gay, or how you can look at any monster romance and come up with a queer allegory for it. So if you're interested in academic conversations about the fantasy genre, then you can check out the virtual conference based out of the University of Glasgow Center for Fantasy and the Fantastic. As I mentioned, it is entirely virtual. It is entirely online. It is free. And I believe everything gets recorded and posted to YouTube. So if you register to go, you will have access to those links and you can watch them at your leisure.
Awesome. Go do that. We also, of course, want to thank the one and only Case Aiken for not only developing some really cool t-shirts you can find at certainpov.com or on Teespring, but also for designing each and every episode's individual show art and constantly taking my notes and letting me be obnoxious. Thank you, Case. We adore you.
I would like to thank Miracle of Sound for our theme music. It's extremely good. It slaps so hard. And you should listen to everything that Miracle of Sound does.
That's true. Thank you to the one and only Red Spinks for designing our Dragon Age inspired logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Cast His Art on Instagram.
I forgot to tell you, Red spawned an evil twin. So they're not the one and only Red Spinks
Boo.
now. I'm entirely kidding. Red doesn't have an evil twin. There is no evil in this world that could harm Red, because Red is all powerful and the embodiment of goodness and kindness.
Correct. All true.
And I love him. He's a good friend. And lastly, we'd like to thank you for listening. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt A.K. Stormageddon. And remember, all Templars are bastards. Especially
Sir
our
Ulrich.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk.
All right, Josue, let's go through our new Comic Day stack. We have a lot to review.
I know. Maybe we've gone too far.
Well, let's see. Marvel, of course. DC.
I got Image, Dark Horse,
Black Mask, Boom, IDW.
Aftershock, Vault, of course, Mad Cave,
Oni, Valiant, Scout.
Magma, Behemoth.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, all we need now is a name for our show. We need a name for a show about reviewing comic books every week. Something clever, but not too clever.
Like a pun? It's kind of cheesy.
Yeah, it's something that seems funny at first, but we might regret later on as an impulsive decision a few dozen episodes in.
Yeah, we'll think of something.
Join Keith and Josue for We Have Issues, a weekly show reviewing almost every new comic released each week, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.